just will. Just bear with me.
Thanks. Super. Okay. Welcome, everybody, to our brand partner portal. This is the Sprint 3 overview. And before I get started, Christopher, you have your hand up.
I just hit the wrong button while I was trying to record,
Oh,
sorry.
right. Okay, no worries. So anyway, welcome, everybody. Some of you are already signed up for Sprint 3, which is kicking off on the 3rd of May. And some of you are here because we have a few extra spots, and I think you were interested in learning a bit more about what that would all entail. So this is just a general overview of the brand partner portal, and then more specifically, the website integration part of that. So I'm just going to start by introducing the team. And perhaps you could pop your cameras on, you guys, as I call out your name. So I'm going to start with Christopher, who is the Network Digital Manager. And he is, for any of you who've been working on your websites already, he's the person that you would have very likely been working with. And so he supports from that level on the website integration part of the portal. And then I have Raf, who is our project support officer, and he's the content lead as well. So he is the person who will be working alongside you, doing one-to-ones and sort of helping you through the process of updating your content into the brand partner portal. And then I have Teresa Darty, who is our project support officer. And so as we go along, you may be hearing from her through our portal access inbox, which is the project inbox. And I'm Elisa. I'm the program manager for technology and core infrastructure, which is where the brand partner portal sits. So I just have a quick slide here to say what formerly was called an agenda, I've called discussion points to be far more original. So this is kind of the course that we'll be taking today. And just to let you know that there is a Q&A at the end. And we'll all be on hand to answer any questions that you have, but do feel free to pop any questions into the chat as we go. And if somebody doesn't answer them sort of as this progresses, then we'll pick it up at the end. So I'm going to start off with a quick overview of what is the brand partner portal, because I suspect that a lot of you have been hearing about this, but perhaps don't know what all of the different functions are that sit within the portal. And then we're going to go to Christopher, who'll talk to you about website integration and also who needs to be involved from your organization and what skills do they need to be able to go through with the website integration. And then we'll finish with Raf, who will talk to you about how to prepare for the sprint. So moving on to the brand partner portal. The brand partner portal is basically a single point of interaction for Age UK partners to provide information to Age UK. And in many cases, this is a two-way street. So there are 4 functions to the portal at the moment. The first one is a website integration, which is exactly what this webinar is about. But the other 3 functions are INA integration, which some of you might already be signed up to. We have a quality assurance framework function, which is being developed now. And we have organizational information, which is something that we'll be working with you to fill in during the website integration part of the sprint. So I'm going to kind of fly through these. So if anybody does have questions, I'm really happy to answer any of those at the end. So website integration is the function in the portal that allows you to upload details about your services, events, and activities and shops into some new portal templates, which will then make your local offerings searchable by visitors to the Age UK website. And Christopher will go over in far more detail in his part of this presentation what that looks like and sort of where the benefits come and what the rationale is behind that. So I am going to just move on to the next bit, which is the organizational information function. And this is a dedicated area of the portal, that will gather your organizational data into one place. So we will walk you through filling that organizational information in when you have your first, your one-to-one for Sprint 3. And this is kind of basic information like your location, your address, your phone number, and then it goes, as you go down the screen, it goes into a little bit more detail about things like which finance systems do you use, and so on and so forth. This is it's basically a big template with lots of fields in it that will help you fill in as we go along. And the idea here is that over time, it will significantly reduce the duplication of requests that you receive for information. And hopefully it will also reduce the administrative requirements for Age UK. And you should be able to run reports off that as well. So then the third function is INA integration, which some of you, as I said before, might already be signed up to this. Some of you may remember a previous iteration of INA integration, which allowed partners to divert calls to the National Advice Line. This new INA integration is a far more powerful version of the old INA integration, and it has 3 tools in its belt. The first tool is callbacks. The second tool is call diversions, and the third tool is warm transfers. And the idea here is that it can help mitigate demand on your INA service by working through this integration with the National Advice Line's Level 1 advisors, who will then try to be offering callers who reach them your local voice through the integration. And if that's something that you're interested in doing or being part of, there's a website on here, Integration Cost Inquiries. And this will be made available as well after, in case you want to refer back to that and investigate whether that's something that would be good for your organization. And then the last function of the portal is the quality assurance framework. So this area is currently in development, and basically it's moving online a lot of the different quality reporting demands that you may have in your organization. So it's being road tested at the moment for things like serious incident reporting, and it basically allows you to put all of that information into the portal. The idea with the quality assurance framework side of the portal is that it provides partners with more early warning signs of potential quality issues because there's more regular quality reporting. And we're hoping it also makes it easier for partners to spot where actions may be needed. But you can also request assistance through here if you need any. The idea also is to remove the crunch points that were coming from external quality assessments, because the system is built to allow for continuous assessment. And once this is populated with a lot of your organizational data, your quality data, it will allow you to run reports for your boards or other stakeholders who may be wanting to see that information. So that is a really rapid run through the 4 functions of the portal. There will absolutely be more functions coming online as we go along. And of course, we'll update you as that happens and make sure that if that's something that we would invite a brand partner to be part of, we would absolutely make sure that we run more sessions to talk to you about that. So we're going to move on now to the actual function that we're talking about specifically today, which is website integration. And Christopher, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself, and then you can take over and just let me know when you're ready to change slides.
Okay, thank you, Lisa. So some of you will have spoken to me before and some of you will not. And so hello to those that I haven't met, and hello, and hello to all those that do know me. So basically this is just a talking and taking forward the discussion about what website integration is in regards to the portal. So as Elisa has said, the portal has a lot of information in it, but fundamentally it's a bridge between Age UK National and Age UK Locals. And part of it is a really specific piece of software that will take on the details of your services currently, also your activities and events going forward, but just for the time being, while we're working on the rest of it, it's just your services and your shops. And you'll put your details into that portal, and that will get delivered onto the website. But basically the fundamentals behind it and the main message here is that the way that your website works in these few sections is going to change. So instead of having a curated journey, it's going to be a data-driven journey. So the rest of your website will remain the same, but the bits that run the services and the shops and eventually the activities and events will be more data-driven and easier to maneuver and standardized. So if we can get to the next slide, please, Lisa. So currently, this is, just to kind of give you a bit of background about how the system was going to work, we have the national website, which looks like this, which is the basic Age UK National as a whole, and it kind of holds general information about the services that the services that Age UK National supply and funding and those sorts of things on a national INA level. And if we go to the next slide. you'll see that the local directory on the national website gives a bit of information about the local partners. But as some of you will know from updating your details, an example, I've used Camden here. If you put in your details on, if you're a user and you're searching for information on the national website, you'd put in your postcode and it would bring up your nearest Age UK according to your area of benefit, which would be Camden. It would give some information about Camden. But all this information is not something that you control. It's something that you let us know. We put into a spreadsheet and it gets pulled out on the national website. And so it's not as flexible as we want it to be. So if your phone number changes, if your email address changes, we only know if you tell us. And so that's how the national site currently works. And if we then just look at your local sites, which is the next slide, as you'll know, you have your local partner websites. This is the Anytown example, just to kind of show what you have. You have a fixed navigation to kind of keep with brand cohesion. So with your services, activities and events, get involved, about us. Byproducts will be coming off. So as you know, there are no tabs anymore. So if you do have a byproducts tab, that'll be removed. But then there's also shops and room hire if you have them. So, and again, the way that this is controlled, which is separate to the national site, if we go to the next slide, it's controlled by your content management system. And I know I'm throwing lots of technology terms your way, but the content management system is basically the system that runs your individual website. So if you're Camden or Leeds or whoever, you get given access to the CMS, and as you can see, you just update your individual pages on the website, but they don't really have anything to do. There's no connection with Age UK National. So there's a local site and a national site, and there's nothing really in between apart from when you let us know that there's something going to happen or some details have changed. So if we move on to the next slide, you'll see that the difference between the national site and the local sites is quite large. So the national site gets about 2.2 million hits a month, and this is web traffic for 2020. And then if you look at your local partner websites, the average is around 4,000 hits a month. So there's quite a difference. So what we want to do is we want to be able to pass on the traffic that people would come to the national website to you. But the way to do that is to kind of signpost them to specific information. But we can't sign them to specific information because we only have your top level information about the things that you the top level stuff that you are in Age UK, that's a local partner. That's all that we can tell them, because we don't have any change at the moment. So that's where the portal comes in. So if we move on to the next slide, this is kind of an idea of what the portal looks like. And as you can see, it kind of covers the petal of website integration. So there's a couple of areas that the portal will now run on your website. So it'll be your organizational information, which the system will pull out when you put it into it. And a lot of the data that's already in the local directory system will be rolled over into your portal to kind of give you a kind of head start about what we have in our system. So what your address is that we think we know, but you can update all of these now when you have that option. You can also update your location. So your head office is one place, but if you have a church hall where you run a service, that's a location. If you have a pub or a gym or something else like that, but not that you own it, but that you use it, that goes into your locations. And the same as with your shops, not Age UK shops, but your local shops, you would also log in this system so they can be pulled out. And the other bit that's more important is the services, community signposts, and your activities events. Now, as I say, at the moment, we're only focusing on the services and the community signposts, which might be what you want to forward partners onto, users onto, which might be, the local. You don't need to put national services in there, but like something like the local doctor's surgery or the local fire brigade or something like that. And the services that you deliver will be the specific services that you deliver and how they get pulled out. So if we move on to the next slide, you'll see that, and some of you again will have seen the CMS. So what it means is the CMS will still run your website. You can still put whatever you want on there in terms of news, details about your funding, but the bits that deal with your services and your shops, and also when we do them, your activities and events, but these sections will be run by the portal. So the data that you put in the portal will get pulled out on your website. So from a user perspective, when someone visits your website, they won't see any difference. They'll just see a page on a website. But from your perspective, putting them in means that the data can come out on your website, but it can also come out on the national website as well. So if we move to the next slide, and these are lots of detailed, you don't need to worry about these too much. It's just to kind of show you that this is your website. If you're the Anytown website, half of your tabs will be run through the CMS, and the services and the shops will be run through the portal. And if we move to the next slide, you'll just kind of see a kind of more joined up way of the data being shared. So if you put all your data into the portal, it gets pulled out on the national website if people want to get that information, and then they get sent to your website. Or if they go straight to your website, as in the local partner website, the same information is pulled out at the local level. So we have a standardized list of information which kind of gets shared either to your few thousand users or to the 2.2 million that are using the national site monthly, and they can send all of that traffic to your website so that your services can be more easily accessed. Also, the other thing about it is the national helpline will use the portal. So if we call it integration, but if you're integrated in the phone system, as Elisa said, or just anybody rings up and they're looking for a service from national and they don't come to a local site, the national helpline will use all the information that's up to date from the portal in order to supply that to anyone looking for information and advice or for signposting. And so all of that will be up to date because you will be able to keep it up to date, and you won't have to rely on us to kind of contact you or vice versa. So we can kind of give you some examples of what this is going to look like if we move on to the next slide. So this is the kind of standardization of the look and feel. So currently with services and shops, this is how the portal will work. Instead of kind of making a curated journey through, as in, you know, what are we looking for in this area, you can put your postcode in, or you can filter specifically by a service. So if you're looking for INA, it can filter by INA. If you're looking for dementia care, it can do that sort of thing. And the more, this is all based on tagging and categorization. So we have a standard set of categories, which we're going to add to all the time based on the feedback that you give us. But it just means that you can search by a specific category. And then if you want to, by a specific postcode, if you're looking for services that are nearer to you, and the website on the local level will bring that detail up for you and filter the results accordingly. And then when you click on that specific tile that you want, it will take you to a page which is still hosted on your website, will list all your services or the specific details of that service. And the same for shops. It won't be the shops won't filter in the same way, but all of your shops will be able to be listed. For example, as I think it was Wiltshire here, it's very small, I can't see. Worcester, sorry, yes, so thank you. You'll be able to list all your shops in there and they can get pulled out. Now, also, because of the flexibility of the system, some of you might, not all of you, but you might run a service at a shop. So therefore that shop, that can also be reflected in the system. Or if INA is available at a shop, but the system can also pick that up as well. So that it will show you on your services, if you're delivering INA, it's either delivered at a location or your head office or possibly a shop. So it's just this flexibility of data, and to avoid you having to make duplicates of data, and it just kind of ties it all up together a bit more neatly, I guess is the word. So if we look at the next slide, you can kind of get an idea of the, like I say, the style. So you would see, for example, Aged Care Lancashire is live at the moment. So you can see their filter page. You can do a lot of customization on the page. But basically, when you land on the services, you now don't really have a drop down the same way as you would before. You would just land on this page, you can filter accordingly, and then you can go off to these different services which will give you information about it. So for example, that would be information and advice, or home help service, or foot care services, and it will give a bit more information around it. So all of the information that you have on your current page that's running the CMS, you just need to move that across into the portal, and then it gets delivered from the local site, but it also gets delivered onto the national site as well. So it's just kind of this closing up this whole circle of data, and the kind of bringing the national and the local to share the same data, but basically making it easier for users and beneficiaries to find the services they want on a local level, but using the kind of power of the national site to support that and to send people your way. Now, I know there's probably going to be questions about that, but we can come back to those at the end. But just to kind of, that's the kind of technical way of what we're looking at to kind of bring everything together. But one of the other important things that we need to know is who's going to do that work for you. So if we move on to the next slide, it's like we're looking for specific people to be involved and the skills that they need to have. Now, a lot of you will already have people who are working on your website. And so those are the people that will really need to be involved in this. Now, again, it depends on the resource that they have and also the kind of piece of work that they're doing. So the website will still be used. You won't be getting rid of the website. It's just the kind of integrated parts that will need to be worked on. So firstly, you'd need to identify who updates your website, and they would need to understand that the website user journey is changing, and they'll need to work with this and sort of like old ways of how maybe the services section was structured will need to be being changed, and are changing. So they just need to be aware of how that's going to change and not use a kind of a curated journey through, because now it's a data-driven journey of just searching or filtering. So identifying that colleague is kind of quite important. And then the brand partner portal work, you can assign it to that person if you want to, but it also might be that you want someone specifically who's going to do a bit more work. But whoever that is, they should be liaising with your website person, because they're so tightly intertwined that it would, they just need to be kind of in communication about it and what's going to happen to know where the journey is going to continue. And also, if you're in the situation where you don't have a specific member of staff who looks after your website or is going to do this work going forward, you really should do, because this is how it's beneficial to yourselves, and also just in terms of running your website, you need to have someone to do it. So that sort of person should have skills in computer applications, so Excel, spreadsheets, Google, data entry, because that's fundamentally what the portal is. They should also have an awareness of online technology, so website, search engine. They don't have to be a website trained web professional in the kind of standard terms in the same way as we have a team here that do this sort of thing, but they need to have sort of like an awareness of how websites work. They need to be adaptable and obviously willing to learn, but ideally they should have the skills in the first place. And a lot of you, as I say, will have that with your website colleagues who are already doing this. So it's just a kind of, for a lot of them, instead of putting their details into the website and the CMS, they'll just be putting those details specifically into the portal now, which get pulled out on the website. So for a lot of you, you won't really see a change. It's just kind of like adding a new piece of software in, which you just have to do a bit of rationalization to get those to get that data on your website. But it just, as I say, it just means that the portal is now going to pick up part of the website and they'll need to be involved. But the portal will also be run, the portal will also run a lot of other systems to do with the integration with National as well. So, it might just be that one person does the specific part tied to the website, but you're also using the portal for other functions across your organization. So that's really the important parts of the system and how it ties into your organization.
Thank you, Christopher. So now that you have had a sort of quick overview of that, our next little bit is I'm going to be presented by Raf, who's going to talk about how can you prepare for the sprint coming up. So just move on to that slide. And then Raf, if you want to go ahead through this.
Yeah, thank you very much, Elisa. So just from what Christopher's saying, once you've identified the person or the staff or people who are going to be doing this activity, the first thing you just need to understand that the first thing that you need to make sure is that you actually have portal access. I believe most of you have it by now, but if you don't, just email portal access and we should sort that out for you. So if you do have your logins, I would advise you to also just try it out. Use the link that was provided to you, log in with your credentials, make sure you're able to log in so that when we actually start the activities, you're able to log in and we can start it smoothly. The next part is one of the big things that we want you to concentrate on before you start the rollout, which is reviewing your current services and shops. This will give you a good opportunity to actually just rationalize what you currently have. So understanding what you have, if it's out of date, if it just needs a bit of rejigging, if it needs more content added to it, and things like that. So this will give you a good opportunity to do that, and then moving it into the portal. The best way to do that is, if you do have service managers, go and sit down with them, set up a meeting with them if you can, and go through each service that you provide and understand the information that goes along with each service. So the locations, the fees that are associated, if there's application forms, does that need to be updated, and so forth. That would really help you for when you're actually filling out the forms in the portal for your services. And moving on to your website, you have to understand as well how to break down those services once you have them listed out. So for example, some services you might at the moment might be sitting on your website on one page, but it can actually be broken down in different into maybe two services. If you have a daycare and a dementia daycare, you will probably have to understand that those are two different services that you provide. The daycare is for your overall users, and the dementia daycare is for specifically for dementia support. Maybe as well with your INA, this is something that it will just depend on how your AGK is run. If you have maybe an advocacy service within your INA, you can look to breaking that down further into its own service, or you can keep that together in your INA service as well. And the next part is also to consider the time that is going to be taking you to do this task. It will all depend again on the person that you choose to do this. Some people will have a lot more knowledge and a lot more understanding on how this is going to work. For example, how it's going to integrate with the website, and they'll find it easy to be able to fill out these forms. If not, it will take you a bit more time, but as always, we're here at hand to give you any support that you need. So sometimes you might just need to be able to, you might think about just blocking half a day or maybe 2 hours in your day just for your portal stuff. You come in, you figure out what kind of services you're looking to add to the portal. You do that, you wait for it to update, and you see how it looks in the preview pages that we're going to be providing to you at a later date. And from that, you can go back into it and edit it and just tweak it as you want it to look. And finally, it's filling out the forms. So once you're doing that, this is something that is going to be new to you, and we're going to be providing a lot of one-to-one support and training, and there's going to be a lot of guides available. But if you have any questions whilst you're filling out these forms, just write them down or make a note of it, as we have a weekly drop-in sessions, which we will be sending out the invitations very shortly. So when you come into that drop-in session, it's very informal. Just raise your hands and just ask anything that you want. You can also just sit in if you don't have any questions, so that maybe someone is doing something that you might want to take up in the way you're also doing your portal stuff. Hopefully that helps. I'm now going to pass it back to Elisa to talk to you more about the timelines that we're looking at for this rollout. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Raf. Just to let everybody know on point 1 about the portal access, if you don't have portal access, or if you do go ahead and try your logon details and perhaps you can't remember your password, I've put the portal access inbox address in the chat here. So it's portalaccess@agk.org.uk, but it's just there in case you didn't have it handy. So I'm just going to move on to the final slide. And this is just to give a quick overview of what the sprint will look like. So this is our general overview webinar. We will be holding an actual kickoff webinar on, I have a feeling I've put the wrong date on here. I think it's supposed to be the 3rd of May because I believe the 2nd is actually a bank holiday. So apologies for that. We will be sending out the invites for that on the correct day. But that is going to be more of a nuts and bolts kind of session to show you exactly what we'll be asking you to do in order to transfer your data across onto the portal templates. There's also going to be one-to-ones available for whoever your person is who'll be carrying out this work. And we've said that we're going to send out the links to that kind of around the time that we have that that kickoff session. But actually, we talked amongst the team, and I think we may be sending out the sign-up links for your one-to-one before that. So I guess the key thing here is, if you, having sort of listened to this and you've decided that perhaps the person who currently has access and the person you thought would be taking the lead on the website integration isn't the right person anymore, please can you update us with the correct contact details, because we'll be sending all of our communication information to that person. And if you are here to sort of consider whether you want to join Sprint 3, if you can get in touch with us, again, using the portal access inbox, the address that I popped into the chat, and let us know who your primary contact will be. We'll make sure that we get that updated so that we're sending all of the communications to the correct person. So that one-to-one will be basically some time with Raf, where he will kind of walk you through very specifically the things that we'll be asking you to do to complete the sprint. And then the other dates that we've put in here are just sort of the inputting of web content is between the 3rd of May and the 30th of June. So the 30th of June is the deadline to have your content all updated, because it will need to be reviewed, and then any amendments tend to be a bit of a conversation kind of back and forth between Raf and the person who's completing that for your organization. And then what we've done here as well is just put the dates for all of the drop-ins that Raf mentioned and the subject matter that we're having. So just looking, I think the first drop-in is the 4th of May, and we'll be talking about organizational information and locations. And as you go down this little list, you can see that we'll talk about services and activities. What's the difference? Some of these things will be a little bit of a sort of heads up kind of thing, because as Christopher mentioned, the events part of the website integration is still being developed. And so we're holding off entering any information into that at the moment. But these tend to be things that we go over. These topics tend to be things that we go over, but we answer any question that you bring to the drop-in session. So don't feel limited by what we've said the topic is for that day. That's just something, that's just some information that we'll be going over in addition to any questions that you have. And that's more or less the timeline. But obviously, if you have any questions at all, just go ahead and pop them in the chat. And actually, the next, I think the next slide is the very final slide, which asks you if you have any questions. So please feel free to either put your hands up or pop some questions in the chat. I can see some people have already done that. Christopher, have you answered all of these?
So far, yes.
Okay, well done. Right, does anybody else have any questions? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Christopher.
I was going to say, so Stephen Thompson had a question which was about the local website, the increase in the local websites. So, you know, we don't know exactly what that's going to be. So the more data that we have there, we know the more that we can refer them. So I think the more detailed information that you have, the more we'll be able to you know, send people specifically to your website. So if you've got, you know, if everything is tagged with INA, you know, your INA tags, for example, and somebody's looking for a specific service like advocacy, then they'll be able to come up in search on the national site and then send them directly to you for you to be able to deal with those, or for daycare or whatever it is that you're looking for. So we're looking to improve on it, but obviously we want to say 100%, but you know, it really depends on the sort of information that we have in there and how targeted we can be in our direction.
Okay, it looks like Jane has her hand up. Jane, do you want to just unmute and ask a question?
Hi there, yes, hi. I have a question regarding on our service content, we have referral forms and also some attachments. Will we be able to add those, or how will those work going forward?
Christopher, shall I shuffle that one off to you?
Yes. So so it is a bit of an, so we call it an integration because there's going to be an integration. So what we want is that ideally all of the data that's about that you've got on your standardized pages at the moment, sorry, on your pages on the CMS, we want you to move that information across so that when you come to a landing page, it hosts all of that information. You can have an image at the top, but you can link off to it. This is also a work in progress. So as we go along and you say things that you would ideally like to work better, we'll put that into our backlog to improve upon. But the portal is basically it's a database, so it only holds text and links to images. So what we would do in that situation, ideally, we'd have all of your information on that page, and then there would be a link that would say, do you want to be referred to this service? Then you could link to a page where that form is hosted on your website, which might be the original page that was there in the first place. But it depends on how you've done that form. So some people you might use a CMS form, or you might have a PDF form. If it's a PDF, you can just link directly to that PDF. If it's to fill out a form on the CMS, then you can link to that page on the CMS where that form is built. If you're linking to like a Word form or to a Google form, again, you can link to that. If you were linking to, I'm just listing all the examples that I know of at the time, but some people have charity log forms. So again, you can link directly to that form if you have one for charity log, or if that form is embedded on your website, you can link there. So it's a bit of a balance, the same as the video. So you can't put a video on the pages currently for the portal, but you can link to a page. You can either link directly to YouTube where people can see that video, or you could link to a page on your CMS run pages that host that video and the form. It really depends. The system's quite, the purpose of it is to get your main information on the portal driven page, but then you can have supplementary pages on at the side of that.
Okay.
Does that help?
It does help, yeah. And I think, as you say, I think as we start using it, it'll become clearer, and we can probably work out a way of how we can make that work for us. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you very much.
The only thing I would say, and this is for across the board, so don't delete anything. Build the portal pages, and this is not just for you, this is for everyone. Across the portal pages, just put your data in. You're going to copy the data from the live site into your portal pages, but don't delete anything on your live site. And then when we come to the final switch over of templates, which again will all become clear as we go, when we have the next steps, then we'll look at kind of like, well, we know that you've put this content on the portal page, so therefore we can delete these blocks on that specific page. But you might, that's where you might keep that page because it has a video on it, or you might keep that page because it has the form on it. So just don't worry about deleting any content, just think about moving it over.
Okay.
And so
go ahead, Christopher.
No, I was just going to say, I'm just answering Sarah's question. Which one was it? Was it Sarah's question? Can we start putting services and data in now? You can. Yeah. I think you've answered that, Elisa.
Yeah. I just mentioned about locations and I guess some of the little, like, I don't want to call them idiosyncrasies, but some of the like other bits that are related to that aren't necessarily in the services field itself, portal page fields.
It's all really for checking. The purpose that, if you looked at the guidance and you wanted to, you could do that. It's just the purpose of the kind of waiting is because we have to check it, and there's all of you to check, so we need to have enough time to check it. But the more that you get in there, the more you can get familiar with the service, because none of it's going live until we do the changeover. You'll be able to preview it, but nobody will be able to access it until we're at the point where we swap you over.
So Tom's asking if any other AGKs have used a volunteer as the lead person, or are they all staff members? I don't actually know the answer to that, Tom. Does anybody else? Christopher, do you know?
I don't know if they've used it as a lead, but I know there are certainly volunteers that do the website, and I think it really depends on yourself. I mean, it's much like the CMS, access to the CMS. If you trust that volunteer and you're happy for them to have access to your systems, that's entirely your decision. And if they can commit the time and they understand they're familiar enough in order to do the role, that's totally fine for you to do. But I wouldn't give it to someone who didn't, like, again, when we're talking about who should be doing this, don't give it to someone who's not really computer literate, because working the same as your websites at the moment, or for any kind of like data input stuff, that ideally they should have a certain level of technical skills, as you would for any specific job that you went to.
Do you want to unmute, Tom, and sort of further that question?
Yeah, I'm thinking more of the aspect of talking to all the service managers. I mean, I'm working from home of necessity at the moment, but we do have an apprentice. I'm not sure how long he's going to be with us, but who goes in and out of the headquarters. It might be more appropriate for him to be the lead. So I think we've got to talk it out amongst ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's really that a lot of it should be the same sort of information that's currently on your website, but you could also use this opportunity, as a lot of people will be doing, to kind of have a rationalization of the data that you do have, just to kind of go, well, actually, is this right? We've got a chance to check it. We've got a chance to restructure it. You know, it can all go into the test pages. They won't go live. You can share that with the specific content owners, or the specific service owners, and then they can feed back to whoever's doing it. So I think however you want to run it is entirely up to you, but you can also use it as an opportunity to check the data that you have, and just to make sure everything's up to date, because it won't just be pulled out on your website. When the whole system, initially it will go live on your website, but then when we reach a certain, I don't know what the number is, but when we reach a certain level, then it will go live on the national site as well.
Right, okay, thanks, Christopher.
Are there any other questions that people have about the sprints or the portal in general?
There are no stupid questions, so anything just anything you want. We're aware that we've just thrown information at you, but at basis, it's just like just slightly changing where you put the data for your services that you already run, instead of putting them in the CMS. Well, they are going into the CRM fundamentally, but they are going to the CMS, and they're going to get pulled out on your website the same as they do now. It's just a bit more data-driven approach.
Oh, just while you're all thinking, I just wanted to say that we will send you, I think on Wednesday, we'll send you the link to where this overview webinar is stored. And also I will put the presentation in this chat. So if you wanted to come back and refer to that, and I think, Tom, you asked about the Sprint 3 timeline. So that will be one of the slides, so you can have a look at it. And Tom, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just a final question. How many places are there left on Sprint 3 at the moment?
I think at last count it was 5. But my colleague who's keeping track of that is on leave this week, but I think it's more or less 5.
Okay, thank you.
No worries. And yeah, that's a good point, actually, Tom. Just to say one more time, if you do want to join on Sprint 3, just send us an email and let us know, and we'll help you get your access details sorted if you need us to. But otherwise, then we'll just make sure that all of your details are linked into our Sprint 3 communications, so that we're coming through to the right person with everything that will be happening in May.
Thank you.
No worries.
I suppose I have a question, which is not do you have questions, but more what's your feedback on what you've just said, rather than question how do we do this or that or the other. What are your kind of views on what we've just said? Are they positive? Are they negative? What any kind of feedback you can offer us is useful at any time, but just initial reactions now might be quite good. If you're gasping in horror and lying on the floor, please tell us. But that's we're not that's not the purpose of this meeting. It's more just to kind of show you, just to kind of tell you how it's changing. So any feedback of any type, even if it's not specific technical questions, please ask us. Please let us know.
Yeah, because we are trying to continue to refine this and make it as easy as we can for all of the brand partners who are going through these sprints. So we're hoping each time we run a sprint, it's getting better and a bit cleaner and a bit easier. So Jane.
Yeah, I was just going to say, feedback from me. Yeah, no, I'm quite comfortable with everything that you've presented this morning. I do look after the CMS for AGK Salford, so I am quite comfortable with that anyway. So I suppose that is slightly advantageous for me. The only question that I have got, that I may have missed it during the discussions, but do we need to email the portal? We have confirmed that we are joining Sprint 3. Do I then need to email the portal access to confirm that I'll be the lead contact and also then just, you know, arrange the one-to-one. That's something I'm not clear about.
Do you know what, Jane? If everyone can talk amongst themselves for a minute, I can actually just have a quick look and see if you're the person, or maybe Raf, you might know.
Yeah, I just had a look. I think Jane is listed as the contact. So
Brilliant.
every comms regarding all your answers will come to you when Elisa sets it out. Yeah, so for your one-to-ones, and what else was there?
The portal, the drop-in sessions as well, so we know who to send those calendar invites to.
Yeah, do you already have access, Jane?
Yes, I have sorted access. So I have logged on once. I'll have to dig out my password, but yeah, no, I do have access.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Yeah, now that's all you need to do.
Great.
The only thing I'd say is that whereas with the CMS, and sorry for those of you who don't get involved with the CMS, sorry about this, but Jane, obviously you do.
Yes.
So whereas the CMS, if you want another password, you have to email us and we give you another password because that's the system. With the portal, you are the admin. So if you want to add somebody else in your organization, you can add them. So what it means is you might have someone who's in charge of the shops and you can give them access to that and they can fill that up. It might be that you want to give, I don't want to tell anybody how to run their system, but it might be that different service managers want access to the portal just to update their own information, which again, you can give them access and they can go in and do that, because once the system is up and running, this is how it's going to, like the website, that it would be administered through the portal. So you can just kind of say, well, you know, if the phone number changes or, you know, a bit of information changes, or even if you run a new service, you can give somebody access and they can go in and set a new service up.
Yeah, that's great. And just regarding where you've touched on the events and activities, so is that just on hold at the moment and will be done outside of this sprint?
Yes,
Okay.
that's exactly right. We'll be coming back to all of the partners who've been through sprints once that's solid and ready to go, and we'll kind of walk you through it again. But hopefully by that time you'll be quite comfortable with the way it works, and so it won't feel like a huge learning curve.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Jane. Any other questions? Okay.
So if you do have any questions, you can email Portal Access, or you can drop a line, as some of you do to me anyway, to partner.content, because obviously this sits between the website and the new portal software, and we can answer them. Also, you've got access to the digital hub, which you all should, you know, it's at the bottom of every email that I think I send you, and it might be at the bottom of the Portal Access emails. But it's where all the guidance for the CMS sits, and if you look there, there's a new tab at the top, which is Brand Partner Portal. And if you look in there, that will give you the guidance for the portal. So even if you don't have your portal access yet, you can pop in there and you can see the guidance. And it's basically filling out a form. I mean, that's when Raf says about filling out forms, when you're putting your data in. Filling it out in the system is not the tough bit. That's the really easy bit. The only bit that's probably slightly time consuming would be for you to break down each of your services into what their composite parts are, should you choose to do that.
Great. Okay. Well, I'm going to, if there aren't any other questions, I'm going to stop the recording. And as I said before, we'll go ahead and share that. And if you do have any more questions, please feel free to email us. That's not a problem at all. And we can always set up a call if there's something more in depth that you wanted to discuss. Okay, so thank you everybody for attending. Great to have so many people here, and hopefully we'll hear from some of you soon. Take care.
Thank you, guys.
Check, is that an old hand?
All right, bye-bye.